Hello, everyone. On this podcast episode, I'm going to talk about the government. The previous podcast episode, I talked about marriage and the government, right? And what I'm going to talk about in this podcast episode is that many people always have a many people have a negative view of the government. They always see the government as, the cause of all their problems, you know, and there's so many conspiracy theories out there, how the government eats people, the government is filled with shady, demonic entities. Even the kindest governments are still being, called evil. Many people lump all governments into one, cabal of evil. Even the kindest governments, the ones who care about the people the most, are still seen as evil, demonic entities. There's so many conspiracy theories out there by the government, man. The government, in this world, life, works like this. In this world, regardless of the people, there are kind people, there'll be cruel people, right? There are people who'll be kind to others, there'll be people who'll be cruel to others. There are animals who are kinder, and there are animals who are very cruel. Some animals will allow you to pet them, and some animals will always be what? Violent and cruel. Some animals like, squirrels and raccoons, they can live around humans because they're kinder to humans. They're kinder to everyone in general. Then some animals are the equal and opposite. Some snakes are more venomous, the venomous snakes may be more territorial. They're lions, they're wolves, they're tigers, you know. So not all animals are good animals or kind animals. Not all animals are evil. It's the same way with humans as well. Not all humans are evil humans. Some people are kind, some people are evil. That's the same way with the government as well. Some governments are kind to their people. Then there's the governments that just go out of their way to just kill and harm their citizens. But yeah, from the eyes of view, from the point of view of the people in every nation, in every country, many of them just see the government as just one massive evil cabal. You just want to get rid of all of them in one fell swoop. Just get rid of all the government. All of them are evil. They don't even care that they're actually good people there. They're actually good government, they're actually good, governments and bad governments. Some of them care about you a lot and they do the best for the country. And then some are just evil and cruel. They kidnap you, use you for rituals, eat you, they do a lot of sadistic things. And you can't tell which one is which. And the hard part, the hardest part, some of the governments you can tell. The ones that just go out of their way to just start killing everyone, those ones you can tell. But there's still governments out there that are just as cruel, who kidnap their own citizens and use them for rituals, to take out their organs but what I'm gonna say is they take out their organs and do whatever rituals they want to do. And these ones you can't really tell them because they still pretend to be kind to their citizens. The cruel governments that kill, that butcher all their citizens all the time, every once in a while they just go out and just kill everyone. Anyone who doesn't, like their laws will just go out and just kill them. These ones still say they're the kindest government in the world. The ones that are kind, show they're kind. The ones that aren't kind always talk about how kind they are to to their people. They always tell you they're doing this for your own good. We're killing you because it's for your own good. We're kidnapping you and raping you and doing rituals on you is for your own good. Every bad guy always like to act as if they're the good guys. Because of that, it's hard to tell who a good guy is and who's a bad guy. It's hard to tell who's a good government, which one's the good government, which one's the bad government. But you have to know, this brings me to my message for today's podcast is that in the end, governments, the moment you call it government, most people no longer see them as people. We know, the moment it's called government, most people just completely forget that these are human beings there. Human beings that live their own lives, that have bosses, The government's not everyone, the government's always in a hierarchy. Even the boss has bosses. The boss still has to cater to the needs of the people, his underlings. He rules, but there's still a chance that, his underlings will not listen to him. So you can either lead with violence or lead with kindness. But in the end, there's always checks and balances. People are the government. Without people, there's no such thing as the government. Stop seeing the government as some sort of massive cabal. Even in the shitty government, there are people there that are kind, that are trying to change things within the government. Even in the most shadiest, cruel government, there's still kind people there trying to change things from the inside out. There are always people. The government is not just one massive, demonic entity. It is made up of people. This brings me to the same thing that I was talking about, with atoms. When you see, the moment you call a group of atoms human, you no longer see them as atoms anymore. Just like, it's just like the moment you call something government, you no longer see it as as a group of people anymore. These are people who have their own lives to live. Some people have bosses that, abuse them. Some of these people are living, miserable lives. They're trying their best to live every day to take care of their kids. They're just average people like you and me. They're just normal folks like you and me. You have to see them as humans. Stop seeing them as evil demonic entities. They are human beings just like you and me. There's so many people out there, so many conspiracy theorists out there that call the moment any problem in this world is the government's fault. It's the government. The government did this. The government did that. Even their own personal issues, they're blaming on the government. They've turned the government into one massive evil entity that's always out to harm them. When the truth is, within the government, there are good people and bad people within the government itself, within every government. There are people who are there just to help you, who only wanted to be part of the government, who only wanted to be a politician, who only want to work for the government to help others. And then there are the shady ones, the ones who gives no crap about any single person whatsoever. They only became a politician. They only became, part of the government to make money or just to harm others. They love harming others. And the best way to harm others is if you have a lot of power. So, but you have to be careful. Not everyone in the government, is all evil. There are kind people in the government as well. If you kill everyone, in your own government, you may be killing the kindest people in the world. The people who has your best interest at heart. The worst part of it is you may end up killing the people who actually have your best interest at heart, right? And letting the cruel villains live. Because the cruel villains are the ones that pretend to be kind the most. They're cruel for a reason. They will never tell you the truth. They will never tell you the truth. They will always pretend to be the kindest person in the world. And many people fall for that. They always see the evilest person as the kindest person in the world. Because the evilest person is always the one that pretends to be kind the most. They're the ones that go above and beyond to show how kind they are. When the truth is, behind the scenes, all they do is evil deeds. All they do is sell you out. And you can't tell a kind person from an evil person from afar. It's very hard. You must actually, be someone who lives with them on a daily basis to actually start to see them, because it's hard to pretend for the rest of your life. It's hard to pretend for a long time. Sooner or later, all the evil deeds that all the evil desires will slowly start to come out. And that's how life works. It's very hard for you to know who actually is a good person. And if you end up killing the person you think is a bad person, you may end up killing the good person and leaving the very crooked and violent and cruel villain to live and rule your government. The one who keeps telling you that everything is fine, I'm doing this for your own good. All I care about is the people. Yet behind your back, all they do is sell you out. All they do is prey on you. You have to be very careful. When you say the government is evil, you may end up getting rid of the most perfect government for your country. The kindest people, every country has different governments. Some countries will just get, because some other government is evil, right? Do evil deeds. They'll try to get rid of their own government The people inside their own government that have always been kind to them, they will get rid of them. And guess what? Who do you think they'll put in charge? When you kill good people, when you kill people who help you will never get someone better. You will never be rewarded for your cruelty. You'll be punished for your own cruelty. God will punish you for your sins. You'll be punished for your sins. So if you get rid of, the one you think is really evil, you may end up getting rid of the only kind one there. And who you put in place? The one who pretends to be kind the most. The one who always pretends he's the nicest person in the world. But because you don't know them that well, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. People rarely ever know politicians that well. Because we rarely ever we don't live with politicians. We only see them from afar. So we only have to go, the only thing we know about them is about, their actions. And actions can be very misleading. Many people pretend to be kind when they're not. It's easier to pretend to be a kind person than it is to actually be a kind person. It's easier to pretend you care about someone than it is to actually care about that person. It's easier to pretend you care about your country than to actually care about your country. And this is the problem you have to deal with. This is what you have to, be careful of. Governments are human beings too. And within human beings, they're kind people and they're cruel people. And it's very hard to tell who's who. Very, very hard. Because the cruelest people always pretend to be the nicest ones. In public, they'll always act like the nicest ones. But behind your back, behind the scene, they do the cruelest things in the world. So if you're someone who loves to get rid of, government, you think all government are corrupt, be careful. Because you may be getting rid of a good government. And if you get rid of the good people in your life, you'll only get what? You'll only replace them with the bad people, the ones who pretend to be the kindest people in the world. And this is what and this is the problem, with science as well. Many scientists do not see human beings as what? Atoms. Because they do not see humans as atoms. Just like people do not see government as people. You don't see the government as people. You see them as the government. Likewise, scientists do not see atoms as people. When the truth is, an atom is a human being. A human being is an atom. There's no difference between the two. A government is made up of people. People create the government. When you say government, you automatically assume, you're automatically saying people. When you say people, you're automatically saying government. Because what? When a group of people come together to lead, it becomes a government. When a group of people come together, there's always a leader and a follower. There's always a government and what? The people. Atoms function the same way. You're not a human being. You're just a bundle of atoms. When you say a human being can think, you're saying an atom can think. When you say the government is capable of creating laws, you're saying humans are capable of creating laws. When you say, a human being is capable of, imagination, you're saying that atoms are capable of imagination. When you're saying the government is capable of building roads and helping the people, you're saying humans are capable of building roads and helping the people. When you say humans are capable of building, spaceships, right? You're saying atoms are capable of building spaceships. When you say humans are capable of thinking, you're saying atoms are capable of thinking. When you say humans are intelligent, you're saying atoms are intelligent. Humans and atoms are exactly the same thing. Because a human is nothing more than a bunch of atoms. The government and people are exactly the same thing. Because the government is what? Nothing more than a bunch of people. When people come together, a government is formed. Whether you call it the government or not, people always have a leader and follower mindset. There are people who lead and people who follow. It's easier to follow than it is, to do your own thing. It's easier to follow than lead. So most people choose to follow, by default. And because of that, because people always ignore, the moment it's called something else, the moment you call a bunch of atoms human, you automatically start to see it as something else. The moment you call, a bunch of people the government, you automatically start to see it as something else. It's not. It's one and the same. It's one and the same. The world around you, you have to stop seeing, the government as evil creatures, That's when you start getting rid of kind people, the people who have your best interest at heart, and start putting shady people, in the position of power. Because shady people are always the one who give you endless promises. They will always promise you. They always pretend to be the kindest person who always promise to do X or Y. They always promise to be the kindest person in the world, and then they'll always fail you at the end. So you have to be careful in life. And yes, we are just a bunch of atoms. We are a bunch of atoms. That's what a human being is. At the end of the day, we're all just atoms. And this is why, I've always said that in this world, God doesn't lose you. Whether you die or not, your source of existence isn't, humanity as a whole. Your source of existence is God. The reason why you're intelligent is because atoms are intelligent. The reason why atoms are intelligent is because their creator, God, is intelligent. Because God is intelligent, that's why atoms are intelligent. Because atoms are intelligent, that's why you're intelligent. The reason why you exist is because God exists. That's the basic reason why you exist. You exist because God exists. So don't be afraid of death. Don't be afraid of life and don't be afraid of death. It's okay. Your friends and family members that have died, your loved ones that have died, they don't disappear. Because there will always be God. They will always be part of God. And God will never disappear. God is eternal. God is beyond infinite and finite. God is beyond omnipresence. God is beyond space and time. God is beyond everything we know in this world. Because of that, it's hard to truly tell what God is. But just know that the reason why, you'll never truly, disappear from this world. You'll never truly disappear from this world because you'll always be God. Your loved ones will never truly disappear from the world because they'll always be God. God is the source of all things, and God never disappears because God creates everything. Through God, all things are possible because all things exist through God. All things you know and don't know exist through God. And your parents and family members, whether they're alive or dead, will always be with God, So, do not let these atheists trick you into thinking God does not exist, or, when you die, you just disappear. You just have to know that you're not even alive to begin with. You're just a bundle of atoms. What we consider alive is not, it's an illusion. Atoms are not considered alive. Atoms are not considered living things. Yet, your entire body is made up of atoms. That means you were never alive to begin with. So how can you die? If you were never alive to begin with, how can you die? Does that, have you ever thought about that? Atoms are not alive, yet atoms can think. You can think because atoms can think. You have consciousness because atoms are conscious. Atoms are conscious. You behave, you think, you move, you walk because atoms can move and walk. You create things. You have imagination Because, atoms can create things, and atoms have imagination. Because you are made up of atoms. What you have is what atoms have. What you can do is what atoms can do. There's no difference between you and atoms. None. And atoms were never alive to begin with. Since atoms are not alive, how can they die? Think about it. Since God was never alive to begin with, how can God die? God can't die. Death is an illusion. Life is an illusion. You were never alive to begin with, so you can never die. God was never alive to begin with, so God can never die. You and God are synonymous because God is omnipresent. Everything you know and love is God. This world is an illusion created by God. An illusion created by God. Just like your body is an illusion created by atoms. The entire world is an illusion created by God. And it functions just the same way. God created atoms, and atoms created your body. God created energy, and energy created your body. God created energy out of himself. And atoms created you out of themselves. It's exactly the same thing. Atoms were never alive to begin with, so they can never die. You were never alive to begin with, so you can never die. God was never alive to begin with, so God can never die. So, do not think of life and death as, the way scientists see it. Scientists see things only from a limited point of view. They don't have a full understanding of the world. Because they don't have a full understanding of the world, they can only guess. Sometimes they're pretty good at what they're doing, but many times they forget. They forget the fact that human beings are just atoms. Human beings and they're just atoms. So all the traits that humans have, all the traits that all life forms have, are what? The traits of atoms. These are things that atoms are capable of. And atoms were never alive to begin with. Atoms are not considered living things, so they can never die. You were never alive to begin with, so you can never die. So that's it for today's podcast episode. I pray everyone live a great, happy life, and make better choices for themselves and find who they truly like in life. Amen.